everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you've seen my previous videos or found my travel card comparison spreadsheet, you know that I'm all about trying to maximize points earned from credit cards. For many of us, points and miles are a great way to subsidize our travel goals, allowing us to travel more, travel better, and save money while doing it. For me personally, the most exciting thing about them is that they can unlock really extraordinary experiences that would otherwise be completely unaffordable for most people. I actually had one of these extraordinary experiences recently, vacationing in the Maldives. I booked 2 business class flights going halfway around the world and stayed in a luxury resort for 5 nights. For me, at least, the cash value of this trip was ludicrously high. Unaffordable would be an understatement. But thanks to my spending some time to work out an optimal credit card point strategy, it ended up being almost cheap. So in this video, I'm going to go through an overview of my trip and tell you how I was able to earn and use points to pay for it, and hopefully it will help you do the same. I'll of course be mentioning a number of travel credit cards throughout the video that I used to make this trip happen, and if you decide you'd like to apply for one of these cards too, please consider using my referral links in the description below. That would really go a long way towards supporting this channel and making it possible for me to make more videos like this. More generally, if you're trying to find the best travel credit card setup for your spending habits, check out my comparison spreadsheet, which is also in the description. Okay, let's get into it. We started our trip from Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport, flying Turkish Airlines with a short layover in Istanbul. We were surprised to learn that Turkish Airlines business class passengers get free access to the new Capital One lounge at DFW before departure. We were actually already planning on visiting this lounge since we get unlimited free access anyways, thanks to our Venture X cards. So it was a little disappointing to hear that non-card members can get access too. That's usually a recipe for overcrowding, but it turned out to not be an issue. There was still plenty of space in the lounge. The Capital One Lounge has pretty much everything you could ask for: comfortable seating, lots of free food and drinks, including alcoholic ones, a section of grab-and-go snacks if you're in a hurry, spacious and well-maintained bathrooms and showers, luggage lockers, napping pods, Peloton bikes, and a view of the runway. It's more than nice enough to make you actually want to get to the airport early. After filling our faces and freshening up a bit, we boarded our first flight on Turkish's flagship Boeing 787 Dreamliner. The business cabin has a sleek, modern interior with a 1-2-1 layout, ample privacy for all passengers, and most importantly, lie-flat seats. They also provide a kind of mattress topper for the seat/bed, a comforter, some cozy slippers, and Denon headphones for the duration of the flight. Oh, and food. Lots and lots of food. Eating at the lounge before the flight was a big mistake. After landing in Istanbul, we were given access to the Turkish Airlines business class lounge there, which is significantly bigger and at least as nice as the Capital One lounge. It has many of the same amenities: luggage lockers, showers, sleeping rooms, and of course a lot of food. And for a little extra pizzazz, also this self-playing piano. Weird flex, but okay. Unlike the Capital One lounge though, the Turkish lounge doesn't have a runway view, but it does overlook a good chunk of the Istanbul airport, which, if you haven't been to one of these massive centralized Middle Eastern airports in places like Istanbul or Dubai or Doha, they're basically like shopping malls with a bit of airport signage sprinkled in here and there. We were traveling during holiday season, so the space was nicely decorated and made for a pretty good view. From Istanbul, we actually flew to Mumbai and spent a few days there before and after our stay in the Maldives. But I'm guessing most people watching this are more interested in going directly to the Maldives, so when I talk about the booking and points redemption in a minute, I'll actually use flights that go straight there. I'm just mentioning this because I can't speak directly about Turkish's service to the Maldives since I didn't fly with them there. Instead, I'll just comment on the flight I had to India. This shorter flight was on their older Boeing 777 model, which has a much more dated-looking interior and a less appealing 232 layout. But honestly, I almost preferred it to the Dreamliner because it seemed to prioritize spaciousness over privacy, which is more important to me personally. The Dreamliner is the opposite, and although it's nice to have privacy barriers on both sides of each seat, it makes the seats feel more closed in. The 777 was more like an open floor concept. It just felt more roomy. We flew the same route back on our return journey and were given access to the Adani Lounge in the Mumbai airport before departure. Not really relevant if you're just flying to the Maldives, but worth showing off anyways. Of course, we also revisited the Turkish Business Lounge in Istanbul for, you guessed it, more food, and then made our way back home. Obviously, this was an extraordinary flying experience, and it was made possible only by leveraging credit card points. And here's how that's done. Turkish Airlines is a transfer partner of both Capital One and Citi, so you can earn points with either or both of these banks and convert those points into Turkish miles at a 1-to-1 rate. Turkish is also a member of Star Alliance, which means you can book Turkish flights with the mileage currencies of other alliance members like Air Canada and Avianca. In this case, though, the cheapest rate will come from booking with Turkish directly. After you've racked up a sufficient number of points with these banks and found a good flight to book with Turkish, you can head over to the bank's reward center, find Turkish Airlines in their list of transfer partners, and transfer the points over. You should then see the equivalent number of miles appear in your Turkish Airlines account almost instantly. The key to getting a good redemption with Turkish is to find their promotional rates. As always, it can be helpful to start with an easy-to-use search engine like Google Flights. Let's start by searching for flights from DFW to Male, business class, one stop, and restrict the airline to Turkish. Now we're just going to search forward in time until we find a rate that is unusually cheap. Here are some in the 4,000s. If we pick one of these dates and search for it on Turkish's website, hopefully we'll find a promotional award ticket. So head over to turkishairlines.com, select award ticket, which will prompt a login screen, and search. After a couple of tries, I found that there was a promotional award on November 4th, charging just 67,500 miles for business one way, which works out to 135,000 miles round trip. The non-promotional rate, on the other hand, is 180,000 miles one way, so 360K round trip. Significantly more expensive and not at all worth it. So it's super important to find these promotional rates. But you'll notice that there aren't very many of these, typically only 3 seats available, so you'll have to be able to plan well in advance. You'll also notice that the difference in mileage cost between economy and business is not that big, just 22,500 miles one way. Spending just that much more to get lie-flat seats, premium service, and lounge access over the course of a 28-hour trip, to me at least, to borrow a phrase from Capital One's marketing, that is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. This is why credit card points are so useful for booking business and first-class flights, especially internationally. There is so much outsized value to be gained from these premium bookings compared to economy travel. One caveat here is that the miles don't actually cover the full cost of the flight. You still have to pay cash for some airline-specific taxes and fees, which for us came out to around $550 per person round trip. But even with that taken into account, the redemption value here is really good. If we take the already relatively cheap $4,200 sticker price for this round-trip flight and subtract off those taxes and fees, this 135,000-mile redemption works out to be worth 2.7 cents per point. To put that number in context, let's say you got those miles by spending on Capital One and Citi cards. At the time of making this video, you can sign up for the Capital One Venture X card and earn a bonus of 75,000 points after spending $4,000 in the first 3 months. You can also sign up for the Citi Premier card and earn a bonus of 80,000 points for the same spending requirement. At 2.7 cents per point, that means that you're effectively getting over 50% cash back on that $4,000 spent. And that's on top of the points you'd normally earn for that spend anyways. For Venture X, you'll get an effective 27% cash back on hotels and rental cars booked through Capital One Travel, 13.5% cash back on flights, and 5.4% cash back on everything else. And for Premier, you'll get 8.1% cash back on restaurants, grocery stores, gas stations, flights, and hotels. The sign-up bonuses for these 2 cards alone are enough to get one of these round-trip tickets. To get more, you can also sign up for cash back cards from Capital One and Citi, like the Saver and Custom Cash cards, because both banks allow you to convert that cash back into transferable points at a 1-to-1 rate. So $300 of cash back is equal to 30,000 points. And you can do that as long as you also have a travel card with the same bank. Okay, so that covers the basic strategy for booking the flight. The real treasure, though, is of course the hotel. We had a 5-night stay at Conrad Maldives Rangali Island, a luxury Hilton resort spread across 3 natural islands in the South Ari Atoll. After landing in the Maldivian capital of Male, we were greeted by a chauffeur who escorted us to the Conrad Lounge, where we waited for our seaplane transfer to the resort. The seaplane costs $600 per person round trip and has to be paid for in cash, even if you book with points. It was the only mandatory expense for this booking, but you do get some really nice views of the islands along the way. When we arrived at the resort, we were greeted by our personal island host, who gave us a buggy ride to our room, a comprehensive room and property tour, and basically just helped us with anything we needed throughout our stay. We stayed in an overwater villa with direct access to the ocean and a jacuzzi on the deck. It was raining on the day we arrived, but fortunately it was bright and sunny every day after that. We found it really hard to capture just how amazing this place looked on camera. The water, especially, was so vivid and clear that photos and videos really don't do it justice. If you do decide to stay at this property or any other Hilton property in the Maldives, I highly recommend becoming a Hilton Gold or Diamond member first, which I'll talk about how to do in a minute. If you do, you'll get free breakfast for two people, which is an absolute must. The breakfast buffet here is huge and really good. You can easily skip lunch every day just by eating a big breakfast, which is probably a good idea because paid meals here are very, very pricey. Not much grows natively in the Maldives, so most of the food you'll find here is imported. For dinners at one of the resort's many restaurants, you'll want to budget around $80 per person per night, including taxes and tip. Maybe closer to $100 if you want drinks too. That's expensive for sure, but if you're getting free breakfast and skipping lunch, you're basically just paying $80 for a whole day's worth of food, which isn't that bad, all things considered. The resort has a lot of activities that you can rent out equipment for free, like tennis, kayaking, paddleboarding, and snorkeling. There's a pretty big reef just a few feet off the coast of the main island, with some really great snorkeling. We saw a ton of fish and even a few reef sharks swimming there and around other parts of the island as well, along with some rays. There are also a lot of paid activities like jet skis, water jetpacks, an overwater spa, and a number of excursions to see ocean life further away from the island, the most famous of which is snorkeling with wild whale sharks. We felt there was more than enough things to do here to fill our 5 night stay, though we obviously also spent a good amount of time just relaxing. I'd say we probably could have spent another 2 to 3 days there before we started repeating activities. But as it happens, 5 nights is actually a more optimal point redemption because Hilton Honors members get a fifth night free when booking a stay of 4 nights with points. Hotel award bookings are generally a lot more straightforward than flights. All you need to do is search the hotel chain's website directly. For the Conrad, we can go to Hilton.com, search for a 5 night stay in the Maldives, and select Use Points. Hilton has two tiers of award bookings, which they call Standard and Premium. The Premium award rates are pretty much always outrageous, so you'll need to look for Standard. The standard rate at Conrad Maldives is 120,000 points per night, and by checking the price calendar, we can see that they actually have a lot of availability. There are two kinds of standard rooms at this property, a beach villa and an overwater villa, but the overwater villa usually gets sold out first, so if you only see the beach villa available, try searching a different date. At 120k points per night with a fifth night free, that works out to 480,000 points for the 5 night stay. For comparison, if we look at the total cash price for a 5 night stay, booked well in advance, around the time of the flight we found earlier, it comes out to over $6,500. So this is around a 1.4 cent per point redemption. That may not seem as good as the 2.7 we got earlier, but Hilton points are actually a lot easier to earn than Capital One or Citi points. Hilton has 4 co-branded credit cards with American Express, 3 personal and 1 business, and you can actually get the sign-up bonuses for all 4 of them. The basic Hilton Honors Card can be found with a sign-up bonus of 100,000 points for spending just $1,000 in the first 3 months. At 1.4 cents per point, that's an unbelievable 140% cash back for that bonus. And the cashback rates for the other cards aren't bad either. On top of that, the point multipliers for these cards are also pretty crazy. For example, the Hilton Surpass card gives 6x points on groceries, dining, and gas, and 3x points on everything else, which works out to 8.4% cashback on those 3 major categories and 4.2% on everything else. And again, the other cards are impressive too. If you're wondering how Hilton could possibly afford to give away points like this, it's because their points are usually not worth a whole lot. If you're looking at normal, everyday Hilton properties, the Garden Inns and DoubleTrees of the world, you're probably going to find point redemptions around half a cent per point instead. It's really only at the very high end of Hilton's portfolio that these point redemptions become extremely valuable, more than 1 cent per point. So the optimal strategy for Hilton is just to save up points until you have enough to go on an aspirational trip. The Hilton cards are also important for getting the status I mentioned earlier. The Hilton Surpass and Business cards give automatic gold status to the cardholder, and the Hilton Aspire card gives automatic diamond status, which is Hilton's highest level status. Aspire also comes with a free night certificate every year, which you can use to book a standard award room at almost any Hilton property, including high-end ones like the Conrad Maldives. So you could actually opt for a 6-night stay for the price of 4 when booking with points and adding on the certificate. Aspire also comes with a $250 annual credit that will offset purchases at any Hilton resort, so like the seaplane fare we had to pay to get to Conrad Maldives. And also another $250 credit to offset airline incidental fees, though you can find much more flexible uses for that credit if you do some digging. Since it is a high-end travel card, Aspire does have a hefty $450 annual fee, but between the credits, the diamond status, and the free night certificate, I would say it's well worth it. It's honestly one of my favorite cards on the market. I'll probably make a separate video just about Hilton Honors Points because I do think there is a lot of value to be found there, but one more thing worth mentioning is that you can also get Hilton points by transferring from an American Express membership rewards card like the Platinum or Gold cards. MR points transfer at a favorable 1-to-2 rate to Hilton, so 1 MR point gets you 2 Hilton points. That means that this 1.4 cent per point Hilton redemption actually ends up being a 2.8 cent per point Amex MR redemption. So for example, if you use the Gold card to transfer the points over, which you can sometimes find with a sign-up bonus of 90,000 points for $4,000 spent in the first 3 months, you're looking at an effective 63% cash back on that initial spend, on top of 11% cash back on dining and groceries. The bottom line is between MR cards and Hilton cards, you should be able to rack up 480,000 Hilton points in no time with very manageable spend requirements. And before you know it, you'll be off to the Maldives. I hope this video has made it clear just how useful and fun travel card points can be. If you spend some time optimizing their value, they can unlock experiences that would otherwise be completely out of reach for most normal people. Admittedly, this trip did require a fair amount of research, planning, and searching on my end, but the end result was incredible, and I would say completely worth it. If any of you have your own extraordinary point redemption stories, share them in the comments below. I'd love to hear them. And if you found this video useful, please give it a like and consider subscribing, and share it with anyone else you know that might find it useful too. As usual, I'll have a bunch of links in the description for tools and resources that I think are helpful for maximizing travel rewards, so feel free to check those out. Otherwise, until next time, safe travels.